Hey, what's up? Hope to see you fine. And I have behind me a timeline, which is this part that describes what happened, the chronology of events of the COVID-19 pandemic that we are having in the world. What I want to see with you is how can you use MS Project to build such diagrams as what I have here behind me. Those diagrams, they are timelines. They are really convenient when you need to explain a sequence of events. For example, here I can say, you see, the first case here was the 17th November 19. And then I can say, here, for example, China informed WHO on the 31st December 19. And you see here we can show that the first case in China was the 11th. The first death in China was already the 11th January. So I can go on with all the explanations of the different events here, but we'll more dig into how to build this. I just want you to be aware of that blue line, which is here. This is when the cutoff in Wuhan and the Hubei region started. So I'm pulling your attention because this, to build it, is a bit different, but is one important part in a timeline. If we go down here to the table, you might have already noticed that here on that table we have task names. Those task names, for example, the first task, in fact, is not a task in our situation. It's an event. It's the first case detected in Wuhan. And you see here that this is exactly the same text as what is here. So it's really a one-to-one match. In fact, we are expressing this task or event into the timeline. Now I'm going to start with you from scratch and to build all this. Before, I have also to say that you can download this from our website, vision6d.com/download, and it's all the documents that are relative to the COVID-19 pandemic. Those information here down, they are all coming from official websites or from the press. And you have an Excel file from which you can find all those events with their dates. That file has also the particularity that it relates events for different countries. Not all countries, not all events, but from time to time I will update it, complete it, or if you feel, you can also do it. So those two files are available to help you build and learn MS Project on this part, which is the timeline and milestone. So now we are going to look how we create all that. For this, once you open the MS Project, you might be in something like that, where you see that I have a lot of files and here I could create new ones. You might also go into new, where you will see different templates with which you can start. In our case, we'll start a blank project. As you see here, I have the ribbon part here up, which is open. If you don't see it in your case, you go on any of those menu element, you click on it, and here on the needle, you fix it. Below is the timeline. This is what we want to work with. You can extend the timeline here. You can narrow it. And if in your case, the timeline at some points, it might bother us. So here in view, you see that we have a checkbox in which we can tick off the timeline, or do the opposite. You might be in the situation where you want to see the timeline and it's not there. So you go into view and you tick on the timeline. like that we have it here down. This area below is a table, like in Excel, it's a table. And here we have a graphical area where we will have different diagrams. Before that I go any further, let me take you into options here, because there are some options that are really relevant in the beginning of the project. Make sure that the number of hours per day are 8 and hours per week are 40. In your country or the way you would like to work, this might be different. So do it now at the beginning. For example, you would like to have weeks of 35 hours and number of hours per day of 7. So you have to do this now, because if you do it later and you want to change this, there will be awkward situations happening. The calculation of day will be wrong and things like that. So I recommend you to go immediately when you start a new project to look at those elements. Another element that you would like also to check, it's the week start. You see here it's on Sunday. For me, the week starts on Monday. So with this, I've set some of the elements that I would like to have adapted. Here in display, we are not going to work with costs for the moment, but already here you see that you can choose the currency. For example, if you want US dollars, euros, you can set it here right in that way. So for this, I'm going to say now, okay. Now I want to add some more elements of configuration. Here I go down into info, and you see here that we have the start date of the project, which is today. You can change this, and the finish day will be calculated depending on what we key in. And here down, another interesting thing is the calendar. You see it as being the standard one. It can be night shift or 24 hours. At the moment, we leave it as a standard. If I go down now to account, I want to pull your attention to the version I'm using. Currently here, you see my version, it's 2005. Yours might be different. I'm part of the insider program, and maybe that in the future you have a totally different version. So back to the file now, and we can start. The first thing that we are going to do is to insert the first event that happened. So I will key in first infection in Wuhan. Like that, it's like a task which is keyed into the system here. Now I will add the date for that first event. So it's here, the start, which is the start date. And we will go and look what MS Project is proposing. So I have here a calendar, and I will go back in time, and I will locate this by the 17th November 2019, which is here. So once I do that, you see that I keyed in, I have the event here. And you will notice that here, the date of the start of the project has already changed. This is the effect of the first element or task, in our case, event, that we keyed into the system. I won't put any finish date. I won't put any duration at the moment. So what I will do now, I will add a few more events here. I will now open the Excel file where I have all the data which is relevant to that situation. So you see here, for example, we have China informs about severe pneumonia on the 31st December. So I will copy this, go to the MS Project table here, and simply copy the situation. So the date was the 31st December. So like that, I have that data, and I will go and pick another one. Here down, the first death is the 11th January. So I will go here inside, copy this, and here I will paste it. And you see that it is formatted in blue, so it's not exactly what I wanted. You can try to click on it. That's not the way to enter a URL. There is one way that I might show you later on, but this is not the right way. So I will undo that. And here I will go with the paste special. Paste special, and I will say I want only the text. And we said that this was the 11th January of 20. So you might be wondering why there are links into the Excel file, so we'll go and try one. If you click on the first desk, for example, you will see that it's opening the source from which I got the information. In that case, it was from the newspaper, the New York Times, that has a complete timeline about the coronavirus pandemic. So all the links that you see, all the texts that are linked, they are linked to the reference from when I got the information. So we have this. We might maybe also take here down, it's when, for example, WHO declared the global health emergency, and this was on the 30th of January. We have now 4 events that are ready, and without any waiting longer, I'm going to show you how we bring them into the timeline. So you go on the task, you click right on it, and you see here it's really simple. Down you have add to timeline. So you click on add to timeline, and you see that you have now the event into the timeline. So I will do the same for the next one. Like that, you see how it works. China informs WHO about severe pneumonia cases. The one which is here, the first death, I will show it in a different way. If you double click on a task, or for us, an event, you have a window that opens, which is the task information. And into the task information, you find again the date as we had. You see that if we have a finished date, we can find it there. And here is something that interests me. You can say display in timeline. So we are going to say OK for this. And you see that we have here now an additional element, which is the first death. We'll do it the same way with the next one here down. And here you see that I can go to information. The box is opening, and we select display on the timeline. So with that, I've shown you how you can display events on the timeline. You might have noticed that the furthest we put an event on the timeline, you see that the end of the timeline, I wanted to say project, but we don't talk in project terms for the moment. So it has moved to the 30 January. I have moved a bit further down into the Excel table, and I will take that event here, which is happening on the 19th February. So special paste as text. We said 19th February. And we'll check. Yes, you see that it moved at the end here up. So WHO declare global health emergency. China informs WHO. You can add as you want elements here on that uh, table. You've understood how it goes. You see that it's quite easy, the way to do it. And here I just forgot to add that one to the timeline. You've done right to remind me. So this is how we add those elements to the timeline. So I have added an additional element. It's when the infection reached 100,000 people for WHO. This was the 16th of March, year 20. We have all those elements, and now you see that there will be some more that will come, but I think it's time that we color them a bit. So I simply go on the timeline, select the text, and then it's like in other office tools, you can change the color. I will set it to red. What are the elements which are implying WHO? It's a choice I made. So I quickly go over all those elements to do the same. Like that, you see that we have the elements that are colored. The first infection, I will color it in another color. I will choose orange because the situation is still not really clear what happened in the beginning of that infection. So with this, you see that with different colors, I can here mark differently the events. I'm going to add some more of the events that are here. For example, when China announced that a symptomatic carrier can transmit the virus, which is something important. For example, also when the Schengen space closed, and after that, when the first deaths outside of China happened. I join you when I'm set with all those different events. Of course, you can also key in the other events you would like to see reflected in your own timeline. So that's it. All those elements are added. We see that it became a bit messy. So now we have to clean this a bit up, that we find a good way to do a presentation of that timeline. By doing this, I noticed that there is something really strange. I have here 100 infections in the world on the 6th of March and 100,000 infections here in the world the 16th of March. So I thought there is a misinterpretation in my data. No, it's me, the misinterpretation. I made a mistake. I think I need to change my glasses. When I looked quickly, it's not the 16th, it's really the 6th. So I'm going to change this. So it's here. So you will see what happens when we change a date on the timeline. So I move it down to the 6th of March. And now it has moved to the 6th of March. Now you see that it starts to be difficult to see all those dates. The first thing that you can notice is that you can pull down. There is here a link that stays. But this you will need to increase the size of the window that you have. And every time the graphic is adapting. So I have it here down. So maybe those elements, I will move them up here, because for example, here we can say, here it's what is concerning the rest of the world. And we see here outside China the first death, so I could put it in that way. And here we have another element. It's when France is announcing the first deaths in Europe. So maybe I move them a bit aside like that. We have more space for different elements here. And here is the first sub-Saharan infection case. And here also I put here up USA first deaths. So you see that we have here up all the elements that are concerning what is happening in fact outside China. And here up I could put that one here. I don't think that it's so nice, so I'm going to enlarge it a bit. And of course you can do all this on your own. You understand now how all this is working. I will color them in blue here up. We see that major continents were having cases quite quickly, and the surprise is that a lot of countries didn't react fast enough. And at the contrary, some countries like Austria, Germany reacted really, really fast. So now I will pull those down here, what is about WHO, and I will also here I see that that one, for example, I could delete it, and that one, yes, 2, because I had double them here, and here the last one I need also to change the color because it's also a WHO event. With that, now I have a clearer understanding of what happened. Here I have the line where WHO important events are reflected. Here I have more on the Chinese level what happened. You see that the first infection here was in Wuhan, and then the first death on the 11th. So now we all know that during that pandemic, there were shutdowns, a lockdown of certain parts. So I'm going now to report this for the Chinese city and region of Wuhan and the region of Hubei. Back to the file with the events. Here we see that the 23rd of January, Wuhan, the city, is completely cut off. And that cutoff will last 76 days. And after, you see that on the 25th, it's the entire Hubei region which is under lockdown. So I will simplify all this and will say that from the 23rd, for 76 days, that region is under lockdown. And let's say I do it in the following manner, like that we see. I can here insert a task. I insert a task, and this task is, again, paste special text data. Entire Hubei region is under lockdown, and we said that this started the 21st of January. And you see that we have the possibility here to set duration. So 76 days will bring us to the 6th of April. So I will key in 76, and we see this. You see that whenever we put a duration to a task, which is the normal behavior in project management, we have tasks and they are lasting a certain time. So we see here in the diagram the duration. Duration is the number of days. But if you really calculate, I said that it stopped the 6th of April, and you see here that we are up to something like, yes, the timeline can help me. It's helping me in saying to me that it's closing the 4th of May. It's a bit strange what is happening here. And what is really happening here, it's the following. It's due to the calendar. Because when we give here a duration time, it's counting working days. So it's skipping weekends. It says, no, people were not ill or the pandemic wasn't effective during the weekend, which is absolutely wrong. So This is a behavior that we expect for tasks since we are working with the normal calendar in which weekends. Usually we don't work on weekends, or that's it. But here it's not suiting our case. So to change the calendar is a bit complicated for what we are doing right now. So I'm going to remove this, completely remove it, and we know the end date, the finish date. It was the 6th of April. So with that, I have defined here, and you see that the bar, that time is absolutely correct from the 21st of January to the 6th of April. But it's telling me that the duration is 55 days and not 76. So we understand this, right? And I would like to see this now in the timeline because this is the purpose of that part. So I go again as you've seen it, and we can say add to timeline. And you see here we have that wonderful blue bar which is showing us the lockdown time or period that was for the Hubei region. Now you can also move quite fast between the timeline and the tasks. For example, here you have the initial situation and you would like to see this among the tasks. By right-clicking on it, you can select here, go to selected task. Like that, you see here that I'm directly positioned on that task. I show it again, for example, if I want here to go to that information which is here, you see that we are moved really quickly. This is really interesting when you have a lot of events, and with that kind of representation we have here with so many events, it will be really useful to us. It can also be that at a certain moment you don't want all those details of the timeline, so you can simply go and you click on detailed timeline. Like that, you just have key points that are appearing here up, and of course you can go back and click again on detailed timelines and you find back all your details. So that was it on building this timeline. You see you have all the events. So feel free to use the events that you find in the Excel table or to build others. You've liked that way to learn that part of MS Project. So thumb up. Comments, they are really welcome. Share with your friend and absolutely subscribe to the channel because there will be much more, and it pleases me to see that I have more subscribers. So what is left to me is to wish you a good time, a good learning, and see you soon. Bye bye.